Ciao, welcome to Delicious Italian. Today what I'm going to be making is a dish called pasta fagioli. Now you've probably heard it. You may have heard it called pasta fagioli, you may have heard it called pasta fasola. Everybody seems to say it just a little differently, but what it means is pasta and beans. And it's that traditional dish that's made all over Italy. Each region has a little bit of their own spin on it, and I'm going to show you the way I make it based on how I learned it from my family. Now what I have here is I have some garlic, and it happens to be in extra virgin olive oil. I process this at home. I don't buy it this way ever. I don't buy that chopped garlic in water. Don't buy that, that's not good. Make your own. Put it in olive oil. When you need it for a recipe, it's ready for you. That's what we did at the restaurant, and that's what I like to do at home too. So in addition to my garlic, I have just a couple of canned peeled tomatoes. I like San Marzano tomatoes, those Italian tomatoes that are so delicious. I have bay leaves here, just a couple. These are dry bay leaves, and I like the dry. If you have fresh outside and you want to use that, but I like the dry ones. I have salt and pepper, I have pasta, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and also I have my beans. Now my beans are canned beans. They're cannellini beans or great white beans, great northern beans. Italian name for them is cannellini, and that's what I'm using today. I have the starchy liquid that comes with the can in the beans, and I like to use that too. It gives it nice body, and I also add water to this. So we don't need any stock for this dish, we don't need any broth, we don't need wine, just the items that I've mentioned here and water, and it's going to turn it into a delicious dish. We're going to add the pasta later on, so the pasta is cooked completely separately, and you add it in at the end of the cooking. All right, let's get started with our soup. This is also called a minestra in Italy. That is any kind of hearty first course dish that it might be a soup or kind of like a stewy kind of soup. Not usually a thin brothy soup, that is more like a zuppa, but this is called a minestra. We're going to start with our olive oil. We need just a little bit in the pot because remember I have some olive oil in my garlic too, so I want to add some of that, but I don't want to take all my olive oil out of my garlic jar. So I have a heaping teaspoon here of my garlic, and I'm just putting it right into that nice hot pan. You can hear that sizzle happening. Now this happens quickly. You do not want to go away from here because you don't want this garlic getting brown. You just want this to be golden. Okay, I can smell it already, the wonderful fragrance of garlic in the house. Okay, now to this garlic, it's just golden, I'm adding a couple of canned tomatoes in there. And I'm just going to stir those around and break them apart. Oh, smells so good. So I'm going to turn my heat to medium here and let this tomato really infuse with that garlic and oil. Adding in my bay leaves. There we go. Now I want this to cook for just a couple of minutes and really get flavorful before I add my beans in there. All right, I think we're ready to add our beans. The tomatoes have really broken down and are just melded in there with that olive oil and garlic. The bay leaves are doing their part to make this nice and fragrant. And I'm going to add in our beans. Try to do this without spilling it everywhere. There we go. Okay. To that, I want to add some water. And what I like to do is just take the can that the beans were in and rinse them out, adding the water with that starchy can liquid. So I'm just going to add the liquid that I rinsed the can out with. That is water, along with that starchy residue that was left in the can. Now this is going to cook for about 15 minutes before it really starts coming together, and I'll show you what that looks like. Our soup is almost coming to a boil here. I'm just going to add some salt and pepper to this. If you don't care for pepper, don't add it, but I like pepper in there. And some salt. Now this is going to cook down, so I'm just going to add a large pinch of salt, and then I'll taste it later to see how much more salt I need to add there. By the time this cooks and reduces down, I don't want it getting too salty. So this is getting just about to that boil. We're just going to give it a few more minutes. Our fagioli, that is to say the bean part of this pasta fagioli dish, are boiling away, and I'm just going to reduce the heat down to medium and let that simmer a little bit more, actually about 15 minutes more. This takes about 30 minutes, but you can cook it longer and really thicken it and make it nice and hearty and thick. You can add as much or as little water to this dish. If you find you want it to be a little soupier, just add a little more liquid well before it's done. You don't want it to be watery at the end. You can add water, and if it cooks in and marries with all those other ingredients, it'll be fine. If you add water at the end, you'll make it watery. And then at the time that you're ready to serve it, you would boil your pasta, make it nice and al dente, but don't add it to your soup until you're ready to eat it, because you don't want that pasta swelling up in there and getting all fat. We like our pasta a little al dente, but in soup it's fine that it isn't al dente, but still not mushy. Let's cook this just a little bit more. So this looks and smells delicious. It's reduced enough. It's nice and creamy. Those beans just break down and give this soup a nice creaminess. Now I'm going to be using these tiny shell pasta in this today, but you can use any small pasta in this. It's delicious with orzo, even broken spaghetti. My mom used to sit and break the spaghetti into little pieces and then add it to this. Any elbows, any kind of small pasta. This is not the time for a big noodle. This is small pasta. I hope you enjoyed this recipe video, and I hope you'll join me again here at Delicious Italian. Buon appetito!